Hello! Hi! Oh my god, I'm so sorry that this is so late. I was doing a charity gig for a thing. Oh, tell me this sound. Tell me this bastard sound. Um, uh, oh, good. You've been drinking. You're happy. Hello everyone. Welcome to the live stream. Sorry, I was doing a charity gig that started a little bit late, and then what did I do? Oh, I love that. There were 28 people waiting, and then I say hello and I'm here and it drops down. Hi. Yes, I was doing a charity gig and it started a little bit late. And then I said I would sell copies of the book and donate the money to the charity. And so that meant everybody wanted to buy a book, which was great. But then, oh my God, it was there forever. And then everybody driving home wanted to not run the orange lights, which I know is the sensible thing. The charity, Ben, was the Sussex Beacon Trust. We were raising money for formula for breastfeeding mothers with HIV. Trying to make feeding their babies a bit safer, which is a very lovely and worthy cause. But welcome, hello. I didn't run home. I don't want you to think that I ran to or from the gig. It's just my office, for people who have not been to a live stream I've done before, is in the roof of my house. And so no matter how I get up here, I'm a sweaty, horrible mess. Let's tilt that light down. That's a bit more flattering, isn't it? Bloody hell. So, hello, welcome. Now, a small disclaimer about today's chapter. It didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. The vote came in. Florence is a Spaniel. Oh, very cute. Which sent the book a certain way. And then as I was writing it, I was like, right, how do I make this happen to these characters that we've done a thing to? So it's come out a way. I hope I've got it right. I hope it's nice. But it might not be as full of jokes this evening as we're used to book club being. So hello to everyone. There's so many new names in the chat. This is so lovely. Hello, everybody. This is so lovely. I love this little project. And just to let you know, so tonight I was late. Next week I think is fine. And then the week after that, we might be from a different location, because I think I'm going to be in a hotel. So it will be slightly internet dependent, but I'm sure we can make it work. So hello, everybody. And I'm very glad that we've got a little Spaniel, which was exciting. Not enough Jack Russell votes, though, considering my dog is a Jack Russell. Thank you very much. But it was, I think, the closest vote that we've had. Golden Retriever and Pug were tied, a few votes behind Spaniel. And then Jack Russell was limping along, giving it the terrier limp. How can we know who we're going to kill? There probably will be no more death votes, I don't think. It's not the way the book's gone. What did you miss up with? You missed out on a few different things. You missed out, if it had been Pug, the next chapter was going to be from Harry's perspective, and we were going to have the book follow both the characters. So that's now not a thing that's occurring, which would have been an interesting writing challenge. But so far you've gone for the things that I've sort of put in thinking, I don't think they'll go for those. So I'll write, it'll be this vote. And then you've done them and I've gone, oh shit, how am I going to write that chapter? So let's go with chapter 3. It's opened up the story in an interesting way. So we'll go for it, shall we? Chapter 8. I don't even have wine. I ran straight in. I'm so hungry. I haven't had dinner. God, the things I do for you guys and for myself. I do it for myself. What am I talking about? Anyway, right. Chapter 3. Although I have got a chocolate orange. I treated myself to a chocolate orange the other day. They're only £1. That's nice, isn't it, for a lovely chocolate orange? Go get some wine and a snack, but Mystic, that's back downstairs. I can't do those stairs again. Right, chapter 3. Let's see what you think of this nonsense. Right, I'm just going to move this so I can see your chat and I can see my chapter. Right, chapter 3. Hang on, what accents did we have? Oh God, right. Viv is not in this chapter. Harry is Welsh. Yes, I've remembered. Florence the dog. Let's write down that she's a Spaniel. Okay, right. Chapter 3. Yes, I agree, Lia slurred. She does, indeed, have the most beautiful brown eyes in the whole world, but that doesn't mean we can keep her. They'd opened a nice bottle of red wine in order to ease the tension. Oh, they've got wine. There was an atmosphere in the room she'd not experienced since being the last person left on a deflating, bouncy castle. Harry's eyes filled with tears as he half nodded, half shook his head in response. But where will she go? Oh, hang on, no, he's Welsh. But where will she go? They dried her off in the hallway, then set her water and food dishes down in the kitchen before showing her the back garden and a place to use as a toilet when she wasn't on a walk. She'd sniffed keenly round the entire house, particularly enjoying the edges of the kitchen where crumbs and bits of cheese were often kicked. I've based this on my own kitchen. I'm not accusing you guys of having crumb and cheese covered kitchens, but my own is horrific. Lia had been expecting the entire evening to be about stopping her from chewing and destroying everything in sight. But within an hour of them getting her in, she had curled up quite contentedly and gone to sleep. Although I've written that's gone to sleeping. She had gone to sleeping. She had gone to sleep. This left them with no more distractions from the plight of their relationship. Yet still, they discussed her rather than themselves. She'll have to go back to the shelter, Lia said quietly, to wait for someone who can look after her properly. We can look after her properly, Harry whined, and Lia took a patient, steadying breath, marvelling that she was having this conversation with her boyfriend and not a small child. I've been chatting to the lady there for weeks. She even came round and did a house inspection and said we seemed perfect. But she never met me, Lia said. But I told her all about you. Harry's optimism was heart-tweaking. I told her how lovely and patient and kind you were, how you like reading and writing and listening to classical music. His eyes were round and wide on her. She poured more wine into her glass. And she thought a love of reading, writing, and classical music was perfect for a spaniel. She didn't think perhaps Florence would be better off with someone who liked, oh, I don't know, long walks and rinsing fox shit. Florence can't do long walks. She has arthritis. Florence, who had already decided she was the sort of dog who was allowed on the furniture, was lying asleep next to Harry's feet and let out a huffing sigh at the mention of her arthritis. That's why her owners gave her up, couldn't afford to treat it. His eyes were brimming again, and Lia felt herself melting. Why didn't you tell me you wanted a dog? Lia asked gently. I thought you'd say no, he admitted. Right, she paused. So if you thought I'd say no, why did you still get one? He looked up at her. Because I wanted one. You would have said no, and I'd have wanted one anyway, and then it would have been a whole thing where you didn't want one so much we couldn't have one, and I did want one so much I'd have to choose between you, and I can't make decisions like that at the moment. Lia was quite taken aback. She pulled a leg up towards herself, shifting her weight against the radiator. She was sitting on the floor underneath the window where she liked to sit when she drank red wine, because she didn't trust herself on the cream sofas. Why do you want a dog so much? You've never mentioned wanting a dog before? The song playing changed, and the room felt very quiet in the silence in between. Just the sound of Florence's soft huffling. I could just see you all in the chat, just how much you hate Harry. Why did you want a dog so much? I need something, he said, and his voice was so quiet and dry, Lia wasn't entirely sure she'd heard him properly. She felt tears prickling the back of her own eyes as she felt the emotion radiating off him. He diverted his gaze down onto Florence's fluffy head. She was a pretty dog. She had a surprisingly small head and a dappled white and black coat with long, wavy black ears. On the top of her head, she had a tuft of hair that Harry was twisting up with his fingers and then stroking back down flat to her head. What's going on? Lia asked, keeping her tone soft and her eyes fixed on the top of Florence's head. Harry cleared his throat and his jaw tensed, and she saw him swallowing hard and trying to get his thoughts together. I don't do anything, he squeezed out of a tight throat. I don't do anything. Lia had moved up off the floor before she really realised she was doing it. She crossed to the sofa and sat on the other side of Florence. Her fingers joined Harry's in playing with the hair on the top of the little head. Florence opened her eyes long enough to flick them up and across to Lia and then settled back into her sleep. Lia had always thought having a dog would be a lot of work, but so far Florence was proving idyllic. Maybe it was just puppies that were a terror. Now there's just chat about how you want to eat a chocolate orange, and I really want to eat mine, but I'm saving the middle bit, like the wick bit. Oh, now I've spilled chocolate all over the desk. Maybe it was just puppies that were a terror. She sat in silence, just stroking Florence in time with Harry and letting him steady himself again. If I didn't come and get you from work, I wouldn't leave the house most days, Harry said, and tears ripped through him. Lia felt her world collapse. The lens on her world view suddenly zoomed out, and she saw what a selfish focus she'd previously been filming in. He came to pick her up for him. He was leaned forward on the sofa, head in his open palms, sobbing like she'd never seen him cry before. The motion and the sobbing was enough to rouse the dozing Florence, who sat up and peered intently at Harry's shielded face, offering the occasional tongue flick towards his ears in a bid to help. Sorry, I licked some chocolate orange on my finger and got confused about where I was reading. Hello, Tom in Ipswich. He leaned forward on the sofa, head in his open palms, sobbing like she'd never heard him cry before. The motion and the sobbing was enough to rouse the dozing Florence, who sat up and peered intently at Harry's shielded face, offering the occasional tongue flick towards his tears in a bid to help. I just sit in the spare room and I work, and it's so is this it? And if I didn't, I know you're going to go. I know we're not, I felt it, but I don't know how to, and I don't, so I just wanted something for me that when you go, I'm not. The words fizzled out, and Lia felt the tears dripping off the end of her own nose. She sniffed wetly and reached out a hand to grip Harry's. I wish you'd told me, she said. Or because you'd love me again if you felt sorry for me, he said bitterly. I do love you, she said, and meant it. I don't think people who love each other end their relationships, he laughed, or described them as clammy. I haven't ended our yet. And if you'd told me how you were feeling, we would have got clammy because we wouldn't have got clammy because things wouldn't have got to this. She took a sip of wine to wet her dry mouth. I hated you picking me up from work, she admitted, deciding they might as well really clean out this wound now they were here. Florence had lain back down again, and Lia leaned back into the sofa too, the particular exhaustion that comes with the end of a bout of crying hitting her like a wave. You were always late, and I hate waiting, and I just wanted to get home as quickly as possible after work. Never occurred to me you were coming to get me for you. I wish you'd told me. I'd have understood it then, and we could have made it more of a thing. I could have helped. It's very hard to admit that you need to come and get someone from work or your entire day is meaningless, Harry said hollowly. Yes, Lia nodded. And I suppose I could have told you how much of an issue it was becoming for me, and then we wouldn't be here. Guess we've not really been talking about anything properly. No, Harry nodded. And now we have a dog. Lia smiled, and it melted into a laugh. Harry smiled too. What do you want to do? Harry asked, and Lia sighed comically. That's the question, isn't it? She waited for him to say something magnanimous, like, if you want to leave me, I won't stand in your way. I want you to be happy. But he didn't, and she realized she was very grateful. The gratingness of his recent behavior made a lot more sense in the light of it not being the way he wanted to behave either. She felt incredibly shameful for not having noticed. No, not just not noticed, not even considered the idea that Harry was or could be anything less than extremely happy and fine. What do you need? She asked. She looked at him, but his eyes were pinned on the top of Florence's head, avoiding eye contact at all costs. Should we talk to a doctor? His forehead wrinkled, but he didn't cry anymore. It seemed a frown of confused concentration. I have done, Harry said, and Lia felt surprise hit her like ocean spray all over again. Oh, right, was all she could muster. What did they say? They've offered me antidepressants and I'm on a waiting list to speak to a therapist. Lia smiled. There was something deeply interesting about Harry that she'd almost forgotten in their recent sleepwalking months of relationship. He was at once modern enough to independently reach out for and accept help, and old school bottle it up Victorian enough to have not mentioned it to the person he loved and was supposedly partnered with for life. You did all that without talking to me. Once she'd said it, she saw her mistake. You don't hear that from a person and then make the next sentence all about yourself. I mean, she backtracked. That's incredible, Harry. Takes a lot of bravery to do that. Why didn't you feel comfortable bringing it up with me, though? There was no way not ask, it seemed. It wasn't about you, Harry said simply, and she had no choice but to take a moment and sit in that. There was a silence between them that lasted at least a Florence fart and a half. The first one was definite. The second might have been another or just a shockwave from the first, but it was definitely something. The first awful thing about owning a dog. So, what do you need? Lia said eventually. Repeating herself was the only thing she could think to do. How Harry felt wasn't about her. Harry wasn't how Harry wanted to be at the moment. Guiltily, she realized this made her feel a bit better. One, she wasn't awful for feeling unsure about a relationship with someone presenting as being extremely pleasant. There was something wrong. Two, it wasn't the end of their relationship. It was the beginning of them acknowledging unhappiness. She was unhappy in the relationship, he was unhappy, full stop. The relationship could survive. Three, there was an immediate course of action on offer, and that was to focus on Harry. I need the world to unshrink, said Harry suddenly. Since the lockdowns and work moving into a corner of the living room and everything changing, it all feels so small. I need to get the world back. Okay, Lia said, a plan forming. Do you want to start big or small? Harry grinned, and Lia's heart bounced. It had been a while since she'd felt that sitting in this room. She finished her wine and squashed down the mini grief for herself that she'd missed out on that excitement for so long. There would be a time to process that in a little while. There we go. That's the chapter. Now, listen, I know it got a bit different to how we were maybe expecting the story to go, but your vote meant that they needed to do a thing in this chapter. They couldn't break up in this chapter. So then it was a case of, all right, well, if they're not breaking up, why? And I thought, hey, do you know what? These guys hate Harry. Can you turn a character around in a chapter where you weren't expecting to? So there you go. We're going to be exploring Harry. Your vote, you get to put words in Harry's mouth. Now, I know you're not keen on him, but you got to think from his perspective. He's opened up. He's doing all the right things, but he's not in a good place. Maybe you should have spoken to her before, but we don't always do that, do we? We don't always behave the way we should behave. Does he want to start big or small in their process of finding his world again and working themselves out together? Does he want to start big or small? So if you're new to the live feed, thank you so much for coming. I hope you've had a nice time. It's nice, isn't it? It's just a bit silly and little. But you can vote. Once the video is posted, don't vote in this chat commentary now because I can't find those to count them up afterwards. But once the video is posted, just post it underneath there. And vote big or small, up to you guys. There's so many new names. Hello, everybody that's here. Emma, who we got? Tom and Stephen and Daniel. Hello, everybody. That's so nice. Lady Frag is glad she didn't join in with being mean to Harry. Hey, we've got to have a villain. It just means it's probably not going to be Harry in this book. You would have broken them up. Let's find out what you could have won. If you'd voted Golden Retriever, they'd have broken up in this episode, and Lia would have taken Florence with her. Who knew where that was going to go? If it was a Jack Russell, the dog was going to be a menace. and Lia and Harry would have bonded over the dog. Yes, if it had been a pug, the next chapter would have been from Harry's perspective, and he would have had a secret that he didn't want Lia to know. Could have been mystery, who knows? But it was a spaniel, so they didn't break up, and they make a plan together. Now, you're in charge of that plan, big or small, up to you. You can decide. In the meantime, I love you loads for coming. Don't forget to listen to Lexx Education out every Monday. Please subscribe and please give it a review if you are listening. And National Treasures podcast, which comes out every Wednesday. Again, review that, please. Thank you very, very much. And I will see you next week when we find out big or small. Okay, I love you very, very much. See you next week. Sorry I was late. Bye.